Hey all you cool cats and kittens, and welcome to a review video on wide complex tachycardia with the Tachy tutors, Paul, Philip, and Ben. Whew, tachycardic. Let's get started. So over the course of this class, we've learned how to analyze EKGs by approaching them with a stepwise fashion, a systematic review, if you will. And the first question that we've always asked ourselves in this process is the rhythm that we are seeing a sinus rhythm? And for this video, because we're talking about wide complex tachycardias, the default answer to that has to be no. These are not going to be sinus rhythms. Okay. The next question then is, what is the rate? And again, this is a video on tachycardias. It is not going to be slow. It is not going to be normal. It is going to be fast. Wide complex bradycardias come with their own differentials. So how fast is fast though? And the answer to that question, because I've missed it several times on Kahoot, is that the rhythm has to be the rate has to be faster than 100 beats per minute. It is not 120. It is not 140. It is 100 beats per minute. And in order to even begin the video, really, we have to make sure that the next question we ask is, okay, is this wide or narrow? And the answer to that question is that it is a wide complex tachycardia. Narrow complex tachycardias are going to be a completely different video. So, wide complex tachycardias. But Ben, wait, how wide is wide? And what is wide? What's a complex even? And the answer to that question is, let's review. So, here's a P wave. Here's a wide QRS, and here's a T wave. And I think I just said it, but it is the QRS complex that is wide in order to begin to answer this question and to form a differential. Okay, so how wide is wide then? And that is answered by the QRS complex has to last longer than 120 milliseconds. Okay, but Ben, if I'm looking at an EKG, am I just going to be able to see if it's 120 milliseconds? And the answer is yeah. Yeah, you will, because it has to last longer than 3 of those little boxes, because each little box is 40 milliseconds, and we can do math because we watched Khan Academy videos just like this one. So, each QRS complex has to last longer than 3 little boxes or 120 milliseconds in order to qualify as a wide complex tachycardia, which is what we are talking about here today. So, wide complex arrhythmias, though, can be caused by 2 different large categories that we need to go over real fast. These are either going to be ventricular arrhythmias themselves, right? Something is wrong with the ventricles, causes this kind of slow depolarization across the ventricles, or you have some sort of aberrancy or signaling conduction issue. Forgive me, I probably misspelled aberrancy. But we have to have both of those, or we have to have one of those things in order to have a wide complex arrhythmia, and that informs our differential. So the next question that we ask in our decision-making tree, if you will, after we understand that we are talking about wide complex tachycardias, is we can group them by asking, okay, are these arrhythmias regular or irregular? And you all know how much I love this terminology, right? Like it's my favorite. So let's really quickly review that we are asking here about the adverb in the phrase regularly irregular or irregularly irregular. We are talking about how they are spaced across time. Up here, when we asked is it sinus or not, is when we agreed that this is the adjective irregular, that second word, the adjective. So we are only asking ourselves down here on our tree about the adverb regularly or irregularly irregular. These are all adverbs. Great, talking about spacing. So, if something is regularly irregular, it might have a funky wave, however, it is spaced evenly across time. If something is irregularly irregular, it has different morphologies, right? So, with that definition, what's a torsades? Well, the interwebs disagree. Multiple sources have conflicting information, so we put it right in the middle for you. However, if something is a regular arrhythmia in this category, we have 2 different options. The first being VTach, or it could be a supraventricular tachycardia with a bundle branch block. Again, referring to why we have wide complex rhythms. A ventricular arrhythmia itself, or you have some sort of aberrancy that's causing some sort of conduction issue, widening that QRS. Let's take a look at that over on the other side. Again, the very first option is a ventricular arrhythmia itself for the irregularly spaced complexes, or you could have some sort of conduction issue going on over here with AFib. because AFib, again, is our favorite irregularly irregular rhythm. However, this is a wide complex tachycardia, so we have to have a conduction issue. So, conduction issues. I can have a wide complex. This is supposed to be narrow. That's a narrow QRS for two different reasons. The QRS could grow this way because signals are transducted too early, or the QRS could go that way because the signal travels too late. That's the difference between WPW and a bundle branch block in this case, right? Is I have, with WPW, the QRS starts early and widens because of that faster conducting extra pathway that we have going on, or I can start around a good time and I just take forever to finally finish depolarizing because I have that bundle branch block. I hope that was clear, but that informs the different management between those two different possible types of rhythm. Okay, so if I have a regularly spaced, weird, wide complex tachycardia, but it's still regularly spaced, right? That puts me over on the left-hand side. What's my management if the patient's stable? Specifically if the patient's stable. Well, 80% of those cases are going to be VTAC instead of an SVT with a bundle branch block. So your default option here would be amiodarone. Oh, what a great drug. We love it for ventricular arrhythmias. For SVT with a bundle branch block, it's a little different. And there is a way to tell the difference between an SVT with a bundle branch block on an EKG. However, it's complex, and you should just talk to Paul if you want to know the difference for how to tell VTAC versus SVT with a bundle branch block. Yeah, talk to Paul. It has to do with P waves and precordial leads and some other qualifying criteria. But again, look for that bundle branch block, which we know that we can see in V1 and V6 with the M's and the W's, right? Not reviewing that right now. That's a different video. SVT, though, the very most important thing you can do is a lot of times these cases might resolve themselves just by having the patient go supine and elevating their legs. Let's throw his little arms out there so that he's clearly flailing. Okay, great. Options after you do that include adenosine, or you can have a calcium channel blocker like diltiazem, or you could have a beta blocker. Awesome. Amiodarone for VTAC, adenosine, calcium channel blocker, beta blocker, basically follow your attending for SVT with a bundle branch block. VFib, there's really no such thing as stable, according to the interwebs. So what do? For anybody unstable, we shock them. Boom, 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 boom. Great, correct that rhythm. AFib with a bundle branch block, very similar to our SVT with a bundle branch block over here. Consider calcium channel blockers and beta blockers. For AFib with a WPW, consider procainamide, just to really slow everything down. Procainamide. I can spell. Yes. Again, if anybody is unstable, though, with any of these rhythms, what do we do? Unstable? I've drawn this in yellow because you know what's coming next. It is a giant lightning bolt. Boom! The difference between synchronized and unsynchronized cardioversion is a different video, but again, it has to do with pulses. I hope this was helpful. Quick, let's review. Starting from the top, we are not dealing with sinus rhythms. That makes the adjective irregular. Because we are talking about tachycardias, it has to be faster than 100 beats per minute. And we are talking about wide complex tachycardias, so the QRS complex has to last longer than 120 milliseconds or 3 little boxes. Wide complex tachycardias, wide complex arrhythmias in general, are caused either by a ventricular arrhythmia, the ventricles are the source of the arrhythmia, or some sort of conduction aberrancy. If I have a regularly spaced ventricular tachycardia, consider VTAC as your top option and treat it with amiodarone if stable, shock if unstable. SVT, make sure that you have the patient in the correct position, and then consider adenosine, calcium channel blockers, or beta blockers, shock if unstable. VFib, shock. AFib with a bundle branch block, consider calcium channel blockers, beta blockers. AFib, procainamide. Hope this was helpful. If it wasn't, please blame Paul or Phil. And if you have any other questions, ask them. Super helpful.